So today we're going to go ahead and do the reteach of the simple interest and net worth test. This was kind of a quiz that we said, but we did count it as a test grade. Again, you still need to do your 2 columns. You need to write down your answer, the right answer, and your work, and why you got it wrong. Now on this test, you did check to see which ones were marked wrong. So I am returning your test for them, but you do need to make sure that you do all corrections for all the questions you got wrong, and also make sure you do the retest. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so here's the first one. It says Mrs. Solis deposited $2,500 in a new account at her bank. The bank pays 6% simple interest on this account. Mrs. Solis makes no additional deposit or withdrawals. What is the interest earned out of the account at the end of 36 months? So we do need to record this in the gridable here. So let's go ahead and start with the formula. So that means I equals principal, rate, and time. So I know 2,500 is principal, 6% is the rate, but we have to go ahead and change it into a decimal, and that means that you need to move the decimal 2 times to the right, the left, sorry, to the left. And then we have the time of 36 months. Well, remember, the time needs to be in years, so 36 months equals to how many years? And in order for you to do that, you need to find out first by dividing 36 by 12. Well, we know 36 times 3, 12 times 3 equals 36, so my answer is 3 years. So we know, we all have now the principal, the rate, and the time. So let's go ahead and plug those in. So I don't know the interest, that's what I'm trying to find out. The principal is 2,500, the rate is 0.06, and the time is 3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply two numbers at a time. So we're going to continue. I'm going to multiply the 6 hundredths times 3. Well, I know 6 times 3 is 18, and then because there's 2 decimal places, I'm going to go ahead and put the decimal there, so we have 0.18. So let's go ahead and now multiply 2,500 times 18. I'm just going to bring the zeros down because it's the same thing. It's like multiplying by 100, and then going and trying to multiply the rest. So 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 2 plus 4 is 20. Then add the 2 zeros and an extra 0. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 2 is 2. So then we go ahead and add them up. So that's 1, 2. That's 4. Excuse me. So that's 4. So then I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 decimal places, and that's going to go ahead and be $450. So my interest, or Mrs. Solis's interest, will be $450. So make sure you're putting down why you got it wrong or what you did wrong, and explaining what you could have done incorrectly, and make sure that you're showing all this work that I just showed. Okay, number 2. So he'll deposit into a savings account. Nicholas will deposit $400 into the account. He earned 3,500% annual simple rate. Okay, so he will not make any additional deposit or withdrawals. Which amount is closest to the total balance of the account at the end of 5 years? So Nicholas did not deposit, it's still Sahil. So if Sahil deposited $400, that's going to be our principal. Our rate is to 3,500, and then it's asking for 5 years, so that's our time. So we could go ahead and use the formula I equals PRT, principal times rate times time. So we're trying to find interest. The rate is 400. Remember, the the principal is 400. The rate, we have to change it to a decimal. So that means I'm moving my decimal point 2 times to the left. So that's going to be 0.035 times 5. So I know I could multiply 405 because that's going to be 2,000. So I'm going to multiply those two. I'm going to change the color here. So this is going to be 2,000 times 0.035. So now all I have to do is multiply 35 times 2,000. So I'm bringing down the zeros. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 3 plus 1 is 7. You have 2 decimal places. Oh, actually, it's 3 decimal places. So that means my interest is 70. But I don't see an answer choice on that. So let's go back and reread the question. It says, which amounts is closest to the total balance? Total. So that's what we're looking for, the total balance. So that means I need to add the principal, which we started off with, plus the interest that we're earning in 5 years. So that's going to be $470. So my answer is letter D. Again, make sure you explain your mistakes and write down what you did wrong. Okay, number 3. Roland has $2,500 in his account. He earned $1,500 interest at a rate of 6%, simple interest. How long did he have his money invested? So now, because even if you look at the answer choices, they're talking about time. So what we're going to do, we're still going to use the same formula. Now, they gave us the interest of $1,500. The principal is $2,500. The rate is 6%, but we're going to change it to a decimal, and then we're looking for time. So now what we're going to do, we're going to multiply 2,500 times 0.6. So 25, I'm just going to do 25 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 3 is 15. Then I'm going to add the zeros, bring them down. Now we're going to have to move the decimal 2 times. So that means 2,500 times 150. 2,500 times 6 hundredths, or 0.06, is going to be 150. So now I'm going to go ahead and write down 150 times the time. Now, I'm not sure what I need to multiply 150 with, or I kind of do, but the way we show our work is we divide by 1,500. So if I actually just cross the zeros out, it's like dividing or simplifying it by 10. So now it's 150 divided by 15. So 15 into 15 is 1. So that's 15, but we still have this 0 here. So that means I need to just add a 0. So my answer here is going to be 10 years. So basically, Roland had his deposit $2,500 for 10 years in order to earn $1,500 at a 6% rate. So again, go ahead and explain your mistakes and make sure that you're writing it down in complete sentences. Sander listed some of his assets and liabilities. What is Sander's net worth based on the chart above? So in this case, you have investments, electronics and boats as your assets, and then a boat loan and credit card balance. So what we need to do, we need to add up the assets and the liabilities. So let's start with the assets. So I'm going to go ahead and line them up because it's hard to add them when you have them all not in a straight line. So we gotta go ahead and line up the place values in order to add them. So that's 0, 0, 7. That's 5, and that's... So his assets is 105,700. So now we're gonna go ahead and add the liability. So that's 6,800. So 6 plus 2 is 8, and then bring down the 6. So now the liabilities is 68,800. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and subtract them. So 68,800. So I can't subtract 8 from 7, so I'm going to go ahead and regroup. So 17 minus 8 is 9. 4 minus 8, I can't do that, so I'm going to go ahead and regroup. So 14 minus 8 is 6, and 9 minus 6 is 3. So that means his net worth is 36,900. So again, go ahead and write down what your mistakes were in complete sentences. Number 5. Mr. Novosad opened an account with a deposit of $5,000. The account earned annual simple interest. He did not make any additional deposits or withdrawal. At the end of 4 years, the account has earned $1,500. So what is the annual interest rate on this account? So in this case, we have 5,000 with percent. We have 4 years is the time. We have 1,500 is the interest. So now we're going to go ahead and substitute what we know. So here's the formula. So we know interest was 1,500. Principal was 5,000. The rate was, we don't know. So that's what we're trying to find out. So now I'm going to go ahead and do 1,500 is equal 5,000 times 4. Well, I know 4 times 5 is 20, and then I'm adding the zeros. We still don't know what the rate is. Now we're going to go ahead and divide by 20,000. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cross out those zeros because it makes it easier to do smaller numbers. So now I'm just going to divide. So, and actually I put it the wrong way, and this means that I would have gotten an answer with a, and they wouldn't be on the answer choices. So it's going to be 15 inside the box divided by 200. And that's a very common mistake that students make. So make sure that whenever you're doing division, that you have the dividend outside and the divisor, the dividend inside and the divisor outside. So 200 into 15, can't do that, so I'm going to go ahead and put a decimal and 0. 200 into 150, can't do that, so I add a 0, so then I add another 0. 200 into 1,500. Well, I could get 200 into 1,500, or 2 into 15 is 7 times. So I know that's going to be 1,400. Remainder is 100. You still need a 0 to be able to continue dividing. So 200 into 1,000, that's going to be 5 times. So that's $1,000. So that means my rate is 0.075. But we have to change that to a percent. And in order to change that, we have to multiply 0.075 by 100. And if you do this, then your answer is going to be 7.5%. So remember, when you multiply by 100, it's like moving the decimal place 2 times to the right. When you divide by 100, you move the decimal place 2 times to the left. So make sure you remember that mental math, and make sure you're writing your mistakes and explaining if you did something wrong, why you did it wrong. If you make that division mistake that I just made, then make sure you show that too. Number 6, Adriana's assets and liabilities are shown in the table below. What is Adriana's net worth? So what we need to do is we need to figure out which ones are assets, which ones are liabilities. So cash savings, well, that's an asset because it's mine. And we're going to pretend we're Adriana. Credit card debt, well, that's a liability because I owe that. The car that's been paid off, paid. That's a key word. It's got a D, that's past tense, so that means that's an asset because it's already been paid for. Checking account, still my money, that's an asset. And student loan, well, whenever it says a loan, that's always going to be a liability. So now we're going to go ahead and add our assets. So our assets are 850 plus 3,100 plus 990. So let's do this. 5 plus 9 is 14. Carry the 1. 9 plus 1 is 10 plus 8 is 18 plus 1 is 19. Carry the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our liabilities. Our liabilities, we have 2,025 plus 3,900. So 5, 2, 9, and 5. So now, if you notice, I have more liabilities than assets. So that means it's going to be a negative. So I could eliminate A and B already, because whenever we have more liabilities than assets, that means we have a negative net worth. So let's go ahead and subtract it. So 2 minus 4 you can't do, so we have to regroup. 12 minus 4 is 8. 8 minus 9 we can't do, so we got to regroup. So 18 minus 9 is 9, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So that means we have a negative 985, which is letter D. And if you picked A, that means you didn't remember that when you have more liabilities than assets, then your net worth will be a negative. Now make sure you are writing down your mistakes, or write down what you did wrong. Make sure you explain it correctly and use complete sentences. Okay, number 7 says Isabel invested $15,000 in an account that pays 4% annual simple interest. Irina will not make any additional deposits or withdrawals. What is the total amount Irina will have at the end of 5 years? Well, it's the same person. We just keep making mistakes like that. So record your answers, fill in the bubble on your answer document. Be sure to use the correct place value. So it's asking for total. Now, let's go ahead and find out what the interest is. So we have our formula, which is interest equals principal times rate times time. Okay, 1,500 is our principal. 4% is our rate, but we got to change it to a decimal. We have the time, which is 5 years. So interest is equal to 15,000 times 0.04 times 5. So I know 0.04 times 5, or I could do 15,000 times 5. So it doesn't matter which order you multiply, you still should end up with the same answer. So I'm going to go ahead and do 15,000 times 5, which is 75,000. Okay, now times 0.04. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply that. So that's 0, 0, 0. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 7 is 28 plus 2 is 30. You have 1, 2 decimal places. Okay, so my interest in this case is $3,000. Now, we do have $3,000 as our interest, but they asked us for total amount. So, because there's not enough places in the griddable, I went ahead and accepted $3,000 as your answer. Or, if you actually did it correct and answered the question, then your answer should have been the 15,000 plus the 3,000. So that's 18,000. So either one of those answers I accepted. I think Coach Novosad and Mr. Solis actually let them I actually corrected it, so it would have been 300 of interest and 1,800 your totals. So either way, it all works. So make sure that you check your answer, correct any mistakes that you made, and make sure you ask for the retest, because you won't get credit for the reteach unless you attempt the retest. So good luck on your retest, and congratulations on your improving your grade. Hopefully this will help you out in passing the 6 weeks. Good luck on your retest.